Hello friends, hobbyists and Middle-earth strategy battle gamers, welcome back to another video. I'd just like to make a quick video today about siege engines and a few rules which I've seen a few different interpretations of. I'm still not entirely clear of. It all comes down to siege engines shooting into combat. So I've got a little scenario set up here where we've got an Isengard ballista that's aiming at a combat with Lurtz, Gandalf and Vrasku, and we're going to kind of just play out what happens and try and work out what the exact rulings are for what this does when it hits the combat. So we have to roll to hit, of course, and let's say we roll to hit and we roll a 4, then we roll a scatter and we roll a 6. So it's hit the combat, we're not going to worry about that. But we have to worry about who in the combat it hits. But first of all, we're told in the main rules that if a siege engine shot hits a combat, that everybody in the combat is automatically hit. So I'm just going to put a little label next to everybody here, say that they've been automatically hit as they're all in the combat. But we're told that one person has to be directly hit. Now, if this is a 1, 2 or 3, it's my own closest model. If it's 4, 5 or 6, it's the opponent's closest model. So let's just say that I roll a 2, so it's hit Lurtz. So Lurtz is the model which is directly hit. Now we're told that Lurtz takes strength 9 hit, and that every other model also takes a strength 9 hit. And that they're all knocked prone if they are strength 5 or less, which they all are, so they would all be also knocked prone. So I'm just going to give them all a little prone token here, so you can see there's a lot happening to all these models already. For Gandalf, that would mean that he is instantly knocked to the ground as a thrown rider, so he would also take a strength 3 hit when we get around to resolving things, as he's automatically knocked prone from horseback. What happens to Lurtz then is he gets flung back, let's say 6 inches, directly away from the siege engine. Now that will take him through Gandalf to a point up here. So as Gandalf is passed over, Gandalf would also take a strength 6 hit. So it seems like Gandalf's going to get the worst of this, even though he's not the one who's been hit. Vrasku wouldn't be passed over because he's not directly between the siege engine and the path that Lurtz would take directly back from that. Now the question is, who gets instantly killed? Well, we know that Lurtz would get instantly killed because this is a siege engine and it doesn't say any exceptions like the Gondor Ballista does. So we assume that this is still a full-strength siege engine that can instantly kill a target if it wounds them and they don't save it with fate. So say that Lurtz is already out of fate, does a strength 9 hit and wounds him and kills him with 1 hit, taking off all the rest of his wounds. But what about the strength 9 hit on Gandalf and the strength 9 hit on Vrasku? Are those instantly killed? Well, the rulebook would say they're all automatically hit, and any model hit with a full strength shot from a siege engine is also automatically slain if wounded and they fail their fate rolls. But the question is, what changes when a model is directly hit? Is just the model directly hit instantly killed? Or are all the models in the combat that take the strength 9 hit instantly killed? Is the directly hit part just for which model gets flung? Because there used to be an argument that they would all get flung because they've all been automatically hit. Or is it that directly hit means they're the one that gets flung and also they're the one that gets instantly killed? And the rest are not instantly killed, but they just take a single strength 9 hit, which wouldn't instantly kill them if it wounded. So that's the situation for the Isengard Ballista. Slightly different, and there's some more questions in there for a Mordor War Catapult, so I'll come back with that in a moment. Okay, so we're back with a Mordor War Catapult, and it's shooting at a combat involving Goroth, Gandalf and Guritz. I've not got these two painted yet, but looking forward to painting those two Forge World models. Now, normally the catapult would need to be further away from this fight, but just for the demonstration purposes, we're going to fire it from here. Now, let's say I roll to hit, and I roll a 4 to hit, and before, roll to scatter and roll a 6. So I'm shooting at Gandalf, obviously, because he's the opponent. Now, what happens at this point? Because we're told that catapults don't need to take in the way rolls for intervening models. Now, does that mean they don't need to take in the way rolls for who it hits in a combat? I'm going to presume no, so I'm going to presume that we still need to roll for who is directly hit. But first of all, like we did before, let's just say that as it's hit a combat, as it says on page 114, that everyone in the combat is automatically hit. So let's say we roll again for who is directly hit, and we roll a 1. So it's our closest model, which is Goroth. So let's say that Goroth is directly hit. Now, he's going to take a strength 10 hit, and be knocked prone, and be instantly killed if wounded. That's definite. Now, we're not really told what happens to the rest of them, because we've not had an FAQ like we have for a ballista breaking down exactly what happens for a Trebuchet or a Catapul. But if a strength 9 hit can also hit the other two people in the fight, then surely a strength 10 rock can hit the other two people. They've been automatically hit. So this is the first question though, because people aren't sure about this. Do the other people in the fight also take the strength 10 hit? Some people think they might just take the splash damage, which we'll get to in a minute, but if a strength 9 bolt hitting the nearest person also does a strength 9 hit on the other two, then surely a strength 10 rock hitting the nearest person also does a strength 10 hit on the other two and knocks them prone. For being knocked prone by a ballista, you have to be strength 5 or lower. For being knocked prone by a Catapul or a Trebuchet shot, it doesn't discriminate. As long as you're not something like a Mummikill that can never be knocked prone, you're knocked prone no matter what strength you are. So for Gandalf as well, that would do him a strength 3 hit, as he's been automatically knocked prone from horseback. Now, same question as before. First of all, do the other two take a strength 10 hit? I presume yes. And does that mean that they would then be instantly killed if wounded by that strength 10 hit, as they've been hit by a strength 10 shot from a siege engine, which is also presumably knocking them prone? So that's the two-parter. Do they also take the strength 10 hit, like the direct target? And does that strength 10 hit instantly kill them? In a moment, we'll get to what happens with the splash damage. Okay, so let's say they've somehow managed to live through all of that, and even though they're knocked prone, this is where they would still be. Gandalf might be on foot by this point, but we'd keep him on his cavalry base just to represent what might happen. Goroth, as the intended target, would have a 2-inch bubble around him, where everybody in that 2-inch bubble would take a strength 5 hit. Now, does this mean that the models that were involved in the fight with him anyway, which are also in his 2-inch bubble, then take a strength 5 hit as well as any strength 10 hit they might have taken before? Or, the other way that some people look at it is that the strength 2 bubble, if everybody has been hit, does the splash damage at strength 5 off of all of them. So it would stretch out off the back of this base, off the back of this base, off the side of this base. So it would cover quite a wide area. And this again comes down to, is it just off the one directly hit? Is it off all of them? And then the second part of that question is, do they then repeat the strength 5 hits onto one another? So does the one coming off Gandalf get the other two? Does the one coming off Guritz get the other two? Does that happen for each of them? Does that happen once? Or do these strength 5 hits only affect people outside of the combat? So question 1, do the strength 5 hits only affect people outside of the combat? And question 2, do they come off 2 inches off the bases of everyone who is in the combat, or just off the initial target and not off the others that they were engaged with? So there you go, guys. A few questions involving siege engines and how they work when they hit a combat. Can the shot instant kill everybody? Does the shot hit everybody with a strength 10 if it's a catapult? And does the splash damage off a catapult come off everybody? And does the splash damage off a catapult repeat over other people in the combat? I think Gandalf's just thinking I should just use blinding light and avoid all of this, but if it does hit a combat, what happens? We've got the main rulebook, the main rules FAQ, the main rules errata, the army book FAQ, the army book errata. So you do have to check 6 different places and then put everything together that's there or not there and try and work it out. And it's not entirely clear and clearly laid out with examples all in one place. So hopefully in time we'll have some answers to some of these questions. I think everybody has their way that they play it and stick to it, but those ways can be different from one person to the next. So it's getting a kind of common consensus, really. And yeah, hopefully that comes in time. So we'll see. And if it does, I'll put an update to this video.